Alright, so welcome to the second part of our tutorial, and in this second part we're going to go through how to truly start modeling our little crazy nice avocado shape. So the first thing we want to do is start creating our avocado shape, of course. And so we're going to go into the top view, and let's actually just hide our avocado because we don't want to see it. We want to make our own, right? So we're going to go into a top view and we're going to start creating our own avocado shape. And of course, as any avocado starts with, we start with this with a circle, right? We're just going to make a circle at any position. Actually, when you make your circle, make sure you align it to a direction, so that way the control points of your circle are aligned to what you're doing. So now if we press F11 or F10, you see that our control points are aligned to the C-plane. Now if we were to create our circle and kind of just do it to this side and we press F11 or F10, you see that our points are kind of just randomly placed, right? So we don't want to do that. So hold shift while you create it, so you snap to something, and then F10 to open your control points. And now you're able to create this kind of nice avocado shape. Now I'm going to control shift C to snap to our C-plane. And now it's just a matter of getting a shape that looks like an avocado. I mean, it's not really complicated. It's just something like this. Now, the first thing we're going to do with our avocado shape is make it sub-D friendly, because of course we're using sub-D. There are some things about this curve that will make it not nice. So this edge right here, as you can see, is sharp. Also at the top here. So what's sub-D friendly? So what is this command right here? Make sub-D friendly. There's not really a name for it. It just makes sub-D friendly. So what this does, it just makes them optimized for anything that has to do with sub-D. So it's as simple as clicking is this last item right here. Boom. And now our entire avocado is sub-D friendly. But there's a little problem with this edge right here, which in order to make it work for sub-D friendly, it has to be parallel to these two. So let's just fix that and let's make it sub-D friendly like this. There you go. And so now we have our sub-D friendly shape that only has control points. It doesn't have kinks. And so that just makes it so it's easier to make the shape. So we're going to make it a little bit more of an avocado, whatever, right? And we're going to get to actually making the shape. So in this video, we're going to go over how to make the general shape of this avocado. So now the first thing we're going to do is kind of create a shape that goes around this avocado, because it's kind of an open shape. It's not really an enclosed element. So since it's an open kind of abstract representation of it, we need an element that flows around it. So in this case, we can just use a circle. We can start simple and just use a circle. If you hold Alt while you do it, you will snap it. And again, we want to do it just like this. And then we can just rotate it holding shift like this. So what happens if we do our sub-D sweep right now? We just have to find the tool, and which is somewhere around here. I think they moved it from Rhino 7 to Rhino 8. I don't know why they do that, but they moved it. So we're just going to type sub-D sweep. Sub-D sweep 1. And now we get to choose a rail, and then we get to choose a shape. And if you right click, you will see how your avocado starts taking shape. So now we have this kind of nice avocado form that comes from a circle, and we can start to modify it a little bit. So one of the things that we can start modifying is the adjusted shape segments, and these are the adjusted rail segments, and these are just the amount of edges that we get. So in this case, we can lower it down to make it more simple for us. Let's keep it somewhere at 4, just so it's very simple. And for the other one, we can also lower it. But there's a point where if you lower it too much, now you get something that's not an avocado anymore. So let's keep it at, we can keep it at 4 too. Let's actually keep it, let's not do 4. Let's actually keep it at 4 for both. So now we have this very simplified form of our avocado. Now if we bring it up, we can get rid of our curves. Let's just hide them instead of getting rid of them. And we can start rotating our shape in the position that we want to start editing it in. We can give it that tilt, but we can also just Control Shift, and now we have it straight up, right? So now we can start editing a little bit of this and start trying to get to that detail that we were having before. So the first steps is just getting some of the maskings. Of course, we're going to start simple to then get some more complex shapes. And so one of the things about sub D that you probably need to know is that if you click tab, you're going to go back and forth from the two polygonal shapes in which sub D is being created. So if you hold tab, you look at the actual true shape of the sub D, or the true form. And whenever you click tab again, you will see its subdivided form. Now, one thing to understand, which is maybe not crucial, but it's important to know, is that the sub D representation of your mesh, it's really just a really high detail mesh. Like, don't think of sub D as a different kind of modeling element. It's literally just a mesh. So if I take this and I mesh this, and I just click OK, and I get rid of my sub D, as you can see, all my sub D is just a more detailed mesh. If we go into render view, you can see that it's the same, but it's just a much more detailed mesh. It's just that this doesn't represent it in this way, but it's technically this. So that's just good to know, but now we can get onto how to actually model. So one of the other things that you need to get your hands on is the selection filters tab. You also have this O-snap, but we're not going to use it. So actually we can get rid of the O-snap. What happened to the O-snap? It disappeared. Oh, I put it down here. Whatever. So yeah, the selection filter tab, this gives you the ability to select things and to filter what can you select. So one of the things that you're going to see, of course, is that as you select an element, how do you really get to select the inside elements of it? And that's done with Control Shift. So if you hold Control Shift, you see how now you start seeing this kind of outline of what you're selecting. And this is something that's happening in Rhino 8. Rhino 7, it didn't give you this outline. So it's pretty nice that Rhino 8 is doing it. And it actually makes it a lot easier because now you don't really need to filter things out if you can actually see what you're going to select before selecting it. So again, Control Shift just makes it so you can select the sub objects. Don't confuse sub objects with sub D. They're two different things. Sub objects are the sub objects of an element, and they happen not only sub D but any other kind of 3D element in Rhino. And sub D then is just sub D. So instead of having to hold Control Shift all the time to get to select every one of your sub elements, actually a good way to do it is to just go into your selection filter and click on sub objects. So that way you're always into the sub object category and you don't need to hold Control Shift. What this does is just it inverts the way in which this works. So now with the sub object selected, if you hold Control Shift, now you will select the whole thing. So when you unselect it, Control Shift, you select the inside. When you select it, Control Shift, you select the whole thing. And now you don't need to Control Shift the whole time to select every single element. So that's in the way we're going to work, just because it makes it easier for any editing reason. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, is to get a shape that we like about this avocado. And that's the first step before we can start getting into details. And that's why having a very simple mesh with just a specific amount of edges will make it a lot easier. One of the other things to start editing, you need to know that we will be selecting a lot of edges, and we will be selecting a lot of continuous edges that connect with each other. And so the way Rhino makes this easier by just having to double click. So if I select an edge right here, if I just double click it, it'll loop it onto where it thinks it's looping, right? So there it does it that way, and if I do it here, it'll do it this way. Now Rhino will try its best to do it, but sometimes it might just not get it, just because you are adding more detail or other things and you start getting some complications, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to start modeling a little bit of it, and we're going to start by just changing some of these faces. So if we go into our polygonal shape, there's a couple of problems here. It's just because it's kind of a complex shape, but we can start editing these things out. Actually, before we start modeling, there's a way in which we can make it so if we're changing something here to this side, it automatically changes to this side. And that's with this tool in the sub D tools bar. It's called the reflect sub D object. So we're going to go into our top view in order to get our straight line, and we're going to click on this, click on our object, and we hold Alt to snap to the vertex, to that middle, and then just Shift to make sure it snaps, and right click, and now you have your entire shape reflected. As you can see, you have this kind of grayed out form of it, and what that does is that when you select or move anything from the other side, it'll happen to its counterpart. So now we can start changing a couple of the things about the form of our avocado, and we're not going to do it. I mean, we can look a little bit on this one. We're not going to do it exactly like this one, but this is kind of one of the ways in which it can come out too, right? So we're going to make our own avocado, maybe a more simplified form, so all of you can follow along, just because this one is kind of the crazy form. So first thing we can do is actually just scale it up a little bit. So I'm going to move the gumball down and then just hold Shift while doing this so I can scale it in 3 dimensions to make it kind of the same size. And so we can start having a collection of avocados. And if you guys make your own and send it over, we can have this kind of nice collection of them, right? So the first thing we're going to do is start kind of massing out the shape of this. And so the way we could start is kind of just, changing things about its polygonal shape. So you can do things like this, and you're not really constrained to the way in which it is. So let's start by grabbing this entire face, and let's just kind of angle it a little bit so you get this nice form. This can be the first way in which we do this. Control Shift O actually Control Shift O is not doing what I wanted to do. So we're going to do Control Shift C again, and we're just going to move it like this. So this is a very sculptural process, and at this stage all you have to do is find the form that you like the most for your avocado. And one of the things that's happening here is that there's a lack of control here. So we probably want to be able to control this, because we don't have enough control right now. So the way we can do that is in one of the commands or the shortcuts that I've made for you guys, we will be able to do some of the things that you have to do otherwise with the tools. So now if we select one of these loops right here and we Control Shift E, now we're creating a whole edge loop, which you can create right here and then edit and kind of start having a little more control over your avocado, as you can see. So now we can start having a little more control, and you can maybe make it a little thinner from here, move it a little forward, and maybe you can start rotating it a little bit. So our kind of normal shape is like this. And this is where the process gets very sculptural. This is where the process gets very tedious too. So we're going to try to get our shape. Again, don't complicate it, don't add more edge loops, just try to get the shape that you like the most. Of course, this is very subjective. If you like your avocado more fat than anything else, then go for it. If you like it more skinny, then you can do it. If you like the big avocados that they sell here in Florida, you can do that too. So it depends on what you like to do.